Let me tell you about a time I almost got kidnapped. I taught English in France about 8 or 9 years ago, and I lived in a little town that was about 2 hours south of Paris by train. There were a bunch of little towns around me that I wanted to travel to because they were nice little quaint towns. And this one particular weekend, I was supposed to go with my neighbor downstairs to Reuilly. Well, he had something come up. He went somewhere else with another friend to a different town, and I decided I'd just go by myself. So I go across town to the train to catch the bus, and it's a Sunday. The bus only runs once in the morning and once in the afternoon. I think it's 9 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. I don't remember exactly. But I catch the bus to go there, and I have a map so I know where I'm going. I wanted to go see a little chateau. There are two ways. It looks like there are two ways to get there. There's one on the main road, but there are no shoulders on the main road, and I didn't really want to walk on the road with potential cars coming. And there's another little road that I decided to take because it seemed like the safer option. Well, I get to that little road. It's a little dirt road, and I'm walking along. I'm dressed all cute, my Armani jeans, my Coach shoes, and I walk past this house, and this little dog that looks like Wishbone, if you know who Wishbone is. It's this little dog that comes running out. He's barking at me. He jumps up, latches onto my knee, and is just hanging by my knee. And I'm like, what the hell? This little Wishbone dog is tearing my freaking jeans. And then this big round guy comes running from the house, and he's yelling at his dog. The dog's name is Jimbo. Jimbo. And the guy looks at me. He kicks Jimbo off of my leg, and then he says, "What are you doing on my property?" And he's husky about it and not very nice. And I said, "Well, I'm just walking down to the chateau down here. It just seemed like the better route to take." And he said, "Well, this is private property." "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know it was private property." And he says, "You have an accent. Where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I live in Issoudun and I teach English." And he said, "No, are you American?" And I was like, oh crap. I guess I just gave myself away by saying I teach English. I know I don't have the British accent when I speak French, but I don't know what kind of accent I do have when I speak French. I thought I had pretty decent French at that time. Not so much anymore. Anywho, he tells me to come inside, and I said, "No, I'm okay. I just need to get to the chateau. I don't have much time." And he says, "No, you're coming inside." And he puts his arms out in a V around me, and he just starts bumping me with his belly, and he's like, "You're coming in." Okay, so I'm shuffling to get up the driveway that I don't want to go up. I don't want to go inside. And then this tall, skinny guy comes out of this truck that's next to the house, and he looks all angry, and he says, "Who is that? Why are they on my property?" And the guy says, "Oh, well, she's a foreigner, and she's going to come inside." And I said, "Oh, I don't have time to come inside." He says, "Oh, no, you're coming inside." So the big guy is still bumping me with his arms around me, bumping me up to the front door. The skinny guy comes up behind us. And in the horror movies, when there's that really ugly lady that answers the door, and you just know the person going in that house is going to die? Well, that woman answered the door. And at that moment, I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, I'm in a horror movie. I'm seriously going to die. So I get bumped over the threshold, and she, motions me in. And they say, "Have a seat." And I said, "No, I don't want to be in here. I have something to do. I have somewhere to go." And they said, "Sit." So what do? I sit, I listen. And in this little town, in this area of France, there's an accent that I didn't quite understand. And In my head, it's kind of like when you go to a country town in Texas and they have a country accent or a hillbilly accent, whatever you want to call it. Well, this accent in my head is like a hillbilly French accent. So I don't understand everything. They're talking, I'm getting every other word. And the tall, skinny guy and the woman said they're going to go get something. And I, to this day, don't know what they said they're going to get. They're going to get something. I don't even remember the word. And the big guy says, I'm going to make tea. So I'm sitting there in silence, trying to figure out how I'm going to escape this. And the tall, skinny guy, the woman, they leave the room. The big guy is looking at me and he says, do you have a phone? And yes, I do have a phone, but I'm not going to tell him this. It's in my back pocket. And I said, no, I don't. And he says, okay, good. Then he turns around to heat up the teapot. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is my moment. This is my chance to get out of here. So I get up. I don't even look back. I just take off running, bust out that front door, run down the driveway. And there is this giant dog that was chained up to a pole that I noticed on the way in, but I don't care about it at this moment. And luckily they did not release that dog on me. I guess it was just, I don't know, there to scare people. So I'm running down the driveway, and a smart person would go back the way they came, but I'm not very smart, apparently. And I turn, going toward the chateau that I wanted to go to in the first place. I'm still running. It's raining, and so it's kind of muddy and wet and all that. And I come up to this big puddle. It was almost like a little pond. The puddle was so big. And I'm not going to run through it because I don't know how deep it is. It's big, and I don't really know the lay of the land, so I'm not going to do it. And I am not going to go back the way I came. I turn, and it's farmland, and the soil had just been turned up for planting, so it's all fresh and, you know. I look at it, and I don't care. I'm just going to run. I take off running through their farm field, and the mud is caking up on my shoes. It's heavy. I'm lifting my knees up, trying to run as fast as I possibly can. And I get all the way across. It feels like I ran forever. It felt like the biggest field. I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm huffing and puffing. I get to the edge, and then there's this ditch. It was a pretty good sized ditch. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet wide, and then 4-ish feet deep. I don't know. My perception is ridiculous at this point because I'm just, I don't know. I was freaking out. So I kick off some of the mud from my feet, and I back up. And I'm like, you know what? I was a gymnast. I can make this jump. It's not that big. And I take a couple steps back, and I run, I jump, and I fall straight into this ditch. And I'm bent over. I start crying even harder, and I stand up, and it's about right here on me. And so I have to jump up and roll over onto the road. And in my head, I'm like, it's going to be my luck. I'm just going to get run over and killed by a car on this day. So I jump up, I roll over. There are no cars. It's in the middle of nowhere. And I stand up and I start walking down the road toward the bus stop. And I cross the bridge. I get to the bench at the bus stop, and I just sit there because I didn't have time to go to the chateau. So much time has passed. It's about time for me to go back home, to catch the bus, the one time the bus is going to come today. So I'm sitting on the bench. I'm still crying, and then I settle down, and the bus pulls up, and I knew the bus driver pretty well because every time I would travel to a close area, I would take the bus, and he was always the one that would pick me up. So he opened the door, and he says, "Did you have a nice day?" And I'm looking at him. I'm drenched. I'm muddy. You can tell I've been crying. And I just said, "Does it look like I had a nice day?" And he said, "Oh, well, let's get you home. Come on up." So I come up, I sit down, I sit in silence the whole 20-minute ride home. He doesn't talk because he just knows I'm not having any of it. And then I get home, get off the bus, walk across town back to my apartment. And I didn't tell anyone about this for a couple of days. I finally told my neighbor downstairs about it, and he was so mad at me. He's like, "You should have waited for me. Don't travel alone." And I told my parents probably 3 weeks after it happened. And, they're the kind of parents that are like, "We're not going to yell at you because it already happened and you learned your lesson." So Mom said, "Well, at least you survived." And that was my shit show. Don't travel alone, guys.